Hey friends, and welcome back to our Bible study in the book of Genesis. Today we're going to be looking at Genesis chapter 10, which focuses on Noah's descendants. But before we get there, if this is your first time here, I just want to personally welcome you to the HomeGrown Ministries YouTube channel. I'm DJ, and on this channel I strive to provide you with biblical wisdom and encouragement to strengthen your walk of faith. And I'm so glad you're here today. Now, the first thing we see in chapter 10 is this list of descendants of Noah. And it's really the only thing that's focused on in this chapter. And there are two major mistakes that people make when they get to genealogies in the Old and the New Testament. The first mistake is assuming that the word father actually means father in the way that it would be used today. So that would mean, like, talking about my son, it would say, I am the father of my son, so direct descendant. But the Israelites didn't always use genealogy that way. Sometimes they would skip over people, and so what father really meant was just a direct descendant. So it could use my father's name and say, my father was the father of my son, and just skip me completely. Sometimes they did that to save space in the book, because you couldn't list you could list everybody, but it would take pages and pages. Sometimes they probably skip people because they weren't important, or their name wasn't recognizable, or they didn't do anything that really made a difference in listing them in the genealogy. But understand the people that are listed in the genealogy are done so with importance. So that leads us to our second error that I typically see, and that's that people get to genealogies and just skip them entirely. And understand, I've said this before and I'll say it again, the Bible doesn't use fluff words. So every single name that's listed is listed for a reason, and it's listed with importance. And in addition, within these genealogies, you'll find short sentences or short paragraphs that are about something significant that happened, or something that the Bible is trying to tell you within the genealogy. And if you just skip that genealogy completely, you'll miss it. So don't make those errors. Please take the time to read the genealogies anytime you come across them in the Bible, because there are fascinating things in there. So in this chapter, reading this genealogy, we look at Noah's descendants, who are the Japhethites, the Hamites, the Semites, and the mosquito bites. Did you get it? It's a really bad dad joke, and it's really late. I can't help it. I think it's hysterical. So really, it's only the Japhethites, the Hamites, and the Semites. Forget about the mosquito bites. They'll bite you later. Good, told you. Really bad jokes. All right, so going through this list, this order, the first group of people we read about is the Japhethites, and they become the maritime people. And all that means is that they were really interested in boats and going out to the sea and expanding via water. So they were the people group that really were interested in that. Then we get to the Hamites. Now remember, the Hamites are the descendants of Ham, who him and his son Canaan were actually cursed by Noah for Ham's sin of looking at his father naked. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch the last episode. But so that's important to remember. Now, in the list of the Hamite descendants, we hear about Nimrod, who is a great warrior. He actually sets up essentially a nation, is what it's getting at. And it's really interesting to see how far the name Nimrod has fallen, at least in America. Because when I call someone a Nimrod, it's usually because they cut me off in traffic. But according to the Israelites in the Old Testament, Nimrod was a great hunter and warrior, and people knew that when they referred to that name. And I just find that fascinating. Now, the other thing that we see in the group of the Hamites is that they are the group of people who helped found or create Sodom and Gomorrah. And if you know anything about the book of Genesis, we will come to Sodom and Gomorrah in the future, and Sodom and Gomorrah is actually a city that is abhorrent to the Lord, and he ends up destroying that city. And it's interesting that that city is a city that was founded by the Hamites, since God already said that Canaan would be cursed. And we see that produced in the city of Sodom and Gomorrah that is a city that his descendants created. I just find that fascinating. And again, if you would skip this genealogy, you'd miss it. So then the last group of people we see is the Semites, which remember those are Shem's descendants. And Shem's descendants are really the focus of the Old Testament going forward, because it's through these people that Jesus Christ will come. So we learn, after all of this, that all the nations of the earth are starting to be created, and they're starting to spread all over the earth, because Noah's descendants are fulfilling God's command in chapter 9, where he says, be fruitful and increase in number and fill the whole earth. That command was given to Noah and his sons I'm sure gave that to their sons, and so on and so forth. So this is where the nations of the world come from. they are fulfilling, Noah's descendants are fulfilling God's commandment to go and populate the earth. And so this is where chapter 10 ends. And in chapter 11, we'll see the story of the Tower of Babel and what humans are capable of if we all speak the same language, and how our pride puffs us up, and how that leads the Lord to discipline his people accordingly. So if you're interested in that, tune in to the next video. But if you have any questions about today's video, or if you think that I missed something, or if there's something I said that encouraged you, whatever it is, if you have something on your mind, let me know in the comments below. I do really enjoy them. I read them all. I can't promise that I'll respond to them all, but I do appreciate it when you reach out to me. It encourages me greatly. And Christians, please continue to be the salt of the earth, be the light to the world. Go encourage somebody else today, because the world desperately, desperately needs it. It's a dark world out there, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!